Well, folks, buckle up, because it's that time again. The time when we pretend to be a functioning democracy and gear up for another presidential election. And let's be honest, after the collective fever dream that was the last few years, you'd think we'd all be hiding under our beds, rocking back and forth while clutching our mail-in ballots. But no, here we are, ready to once again engage in the quadrennial tradition of arguing with our families over issues we barely understand. And this year, the stakes are somehow even higher, the mud will be even slingier, and the attack ads will be even more terrifyingly bizarre. So, to help you navigate this political minefield without resorting to mainlining caffeine and conspiracy theories, we're going to break down the biggest issues facing voters in the 2024 election. Don't worry, we'll make it as painless as a colonoscopy performed by a mime. Maybe. Let's start with the issue that's likely to make your bank account break out in a cold sweat: the economy. More specifically, the terrifying tango between inflation and the ever-increasing cost of living. It's like watching a game show where the prizes are increasingly worthless and the host keeps yelling about impending doom. Americans are increasingly worried about job security, wage stagnation, and the ever-growing chasm between the haves and the have-a-lot-mores. Meanwhile, politicians are busy throwing around terms like fiscal responsibility and economic growth like confetti at a parade. But those words ring a little hollow when you're struggling to afford both rent and ramen. The point is, the economy is a mess, and everyone knows it. The question is, what are our esteemed leaders going to do about it? Will they offer concrete solutions, or just more of the same empty promises and finger-pointing? Well, that remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, your vote in 2024 will have a direct impact on the state of your wallet, your stress levels, and possibly even your avocado intake. Let's move on to another issue that's enough to make you want to crawl under a weighted blanket and never come out healthcare. Because in America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, getting sick can be a terrifying game of financial roulette. We're talking about a system where the cost of a life-saving medication can bankrupt you faster than you can say pre-existing condition. A system where even having health insurance doesn't guarantee you won't end up with crippling medical debt. And let's not even get started on the Affordable Care Act, which, despite its name, seems to be anything but affordable for many Americans. So yeah, healthcare is a bit of a dumpster fire. But the good news is, it's an election year, which means politicians are contractually obligated to pretend to care about it. So, get ready for a lot of passionate speeches about protecting your healthcare and ensuring access for all. Okay, let's talk about the giant metaphorical elephant in the room that's slowly melting: the polar ice cap's climate change. It's the issue that keeps scientists up at night, inspires passionate activism, and still manages to be a point of contention. We're talking about rising sea levels that could make beachfront property undesirable. We're talking about extreme weather events that make hurricanes look like a light drizzle. But alas, here we are, still arguing about whether climate change is real. It is. Whether humans are causing it, we are. The 2024 election will impact our planet. So when you're casting your vote, ask yourself this: do you want to be on the right side of history, or the side that's busy arguing as it's falling down around them? Let's talk about an issue that's close to the heart of any functioning democracy: social justice and equality. Because in the year 2024, it's frankly embarrassing that we're still having to fight for basic human rights for all. We're talking about systemic racism, which continues to permeate every aspect of American society, from the criminal justice system to education to healthcare. We're talking about LGBTQ plus rights, which are constantly under attack, with some politicians seemingly hell-bent on turning back the clock to a time when love was a crime. We're talking about gender equality, which, despite significant progress, still feels like a distant dream for many women who continue to face discrimination, unequal pay, and the ever-present threat of violence simply for being born female. So, where do the candidates stand on these crucial issues? Well, that's the question that will determine whether we move forward as a society or remain mired in the prejudices of the past. Some candidates are championing equality, advocating for policies that promote diversity, inclusion and justice for all. Others, well, let's just say their track record on social justice leaves much to be desired. Let's talk about an issue that's more divisive than pineapple on pizza immigration. It's a topic that sparks heated debates and strong emotions. Border security has been weaponized to justify family separations and inhumane detention centers. Pathways to citizenship remain elusive for millions who contribute to our economy but live in fear. Where do the candidates stand on this complex issue? Their views are as diverse as the immigrants they're debating. Some advocate for comprehensive reform and a humane approach. Others take a page from the Build a Wall playbook. The 2024 election will profoundly impact millions of immigrants and our immigration policy. Chapter 6: Abortion and Reproductive Rights. Because women's bodies are not political pawns. Let's talk about an issue that's deeply personal, incredibly complex and unfortunately often hijacked by political agendas: abortion and reproductive rights. Because in a country that prides itself on freedom, women's bodily autonomy is somehow still up for debate. We're talking about the fundamental right to choose what happens to your own body, a right that's under attack like never before. We're talking about state-level restrictions that make it nearly impossible for women to access safe and legal abortion care, forcing them to navigate a labyrinthine system of obstacles and hurdles. So, where do the candidates stand on this incredibly important issue? Well, as you might expect, their views fall along a spectrum, from those who believe in a woman's right to choose to those who believe the government should have a say in what happens to a woman's body. The point is, the 2024 election will have a profound impact on women's rights and access to healthcare. Chapter 7: Gun Control, a conversation that's long overdue. All right, folks, let's dive into a topic that's as American as apple pie, and unfortunately, just as divisive: gun control. It's a conversation that's been happening for decades, often in the wake of tragedy, and yet somehow we're still no closer to finding common ground. We're talking about the Second Amendment, a document written centuries ago that's been interpreted and reinterpreted to fit whatever narrative best suits those who believe in unfettered access to firearms. We're talking about mass shootings, a uniquely American epidemic that seems to occur with alarming regularity, leaving behind a trail of grief, trauma, and unanswered questions. So, where do the candidates stand on this incredibly complex and emotionally charged issue? Well, as you might expect, their views are as varied as the types of firearms available for purchase in this country. The point is, the 2024 election will have a significant impact on the future of gun control in this country. Chapter 8: Education, because our future depends on it. And finally, let's talk about an issue that's near and dear to my heart, or at least to the part of my brain that remembers what it was like to be young and full of hope before the crushing weight of adulthood set in. Education. Because let's face it, the future of our country depends on the quality of education we provide for our children. We're talking about a system that's supposed to prepare young minds for the challenges of the 21st century, but often feels stuck in the 19th century. We're talking about overcrowded classrooms, underpaid teachers, and a curriculum that's more concerned with standardized testing than critical thinking. So where do the candidates stand on this incredibly important issue? Well, as you might expect, their views range from those who believe in investing in public education to those who seem content to let it crumble around us. The point is, the 2024 election will have a profound impact on the future of education in this country. The choice is yours. So there you have it, folks, a whirlwind tour of the most pressing issues facing voters in the 2024 election. From the economy to healthcare to climate change to social justice and beyond, the choices we make in this election will have far-reaching consequences for our nation and the world. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, cynical, or even apathetic in the face of such daunting challenges. But remember, your vote is your voice, your chance to shape the future you want to see. Don't let anyone tell you it doesn't matter. So stay informed, engage in thoughtful discussions, and most importantly, get out there and vote. Because the future is not something that just happens to us. It's something we create together.